The grass grows and the warbler flies in the February sky, and the willows are drunk with spring smoke. The new students start school on April 1st, when the spring season is in full swing. In Nagano Prefecture, the gate of Akagi Middle School is as lively as a temple fair. Basketball club, dance club, archery club, kendo club. One by one, the associations are like hawkers doing business, setting up tables and planting flags. The club is responsible for recruiting members, and most of them are the leading actresses in the club. They are wearing well-cut school uniforms, smiling and extending their hands to the juniors who have just entered the school. The jade hands are holding a piece of entry into the department. Application form. Walking through such a team, Yamaguchi was always dizzy. I've heard people say for a long time that club activities are very popular in middle school. There are relatively good clubs in the school, and there will even be disputes over the admission of new students on the first day of admission. But who can tell him why he has been standing here for 2 hours and no one has come to recruit him? Those amiable senior sisters, when they saw him, naturally turned their eyes away, and didn't mean to talk to him at all. When he entered the school, he was very hesitant. What if someone came to him? Yamaguchi Ken, who was 1.5 meters tall and weighed 150, was deeply lost. Young man, I am amazed by your bones and your talent. You are a once-in-a-century hitter. Are you interested in coming to our baseball club? This is really a mountain and water, and there is no way to do it, and there is another village. Just when Yamaguchi was lost, an angelic voice suddenly appeared behind him. Turning around, Yamaguchi saw a figure that was half a head taller than himself, well-proportioned, and a little handsome. The other party was looking at him with a smile on his face. His eyes are so clear that he looks like he can peep in. What an attractive senior! Although Yamaguchi wanted to agree in his heart, but thinking about his situation where no one cares, can such a good club really accommodate him? You must know that no matter which school it is, the baseball club is a popular club. Senior? Are you really sure you want to invite me? Yamaguchi said, and tried his best to shrink his bulging belly so that he didn't look so bloated. Sure, sure. It's really lucky for our baseball club to be able to invite a talented player like you. This made Yamaguchi even excited. Since he was a child, because of his size, he was not less ridiculed. When people describe him, they are often associated with some kind of animal raised. For the first time in his life, someone said he was a talented player. Even if the other party is just polite, Yamaguchi is willing to listen. While the two were talking, the other party had already stuffed a registration form into Yamaguchi's hand. Yamaguchi signed up in confusion, and then became a member of Akagi Middle School's Wild Ball Club. It was only after he had registered his name that he knew the name of the person in front of him. My name is Sawamura, Sawamura A-jun, you can call me Xiaorong or A-jun. Sawamura laughed like a fox stealing a hen, which made Yamaguchi feel a little ominous in his heart. Also, don't call me senior, I'm a freshman this year, just like you. Only at this time did Yamaguchi fully see the scene around Kiyosawa village. Behind Sawamura were two very simple-looking country youths, one of them was tall and thin, and seemed to be malnourished, and the other was so ordinary that even if he was thrown into a crowd, it would be difficult for others to find him. Seeing that Yamaguchi was paying attention to his companion behind him, Sawamura enthusiastically introduced them to both parties. This is my friend from the countryside, the taller is Nakagawa Shin, and the slightly shorter Ko Yamazaki. Sawamura's words were full of enthusiasm. Judging from Yamaguchi Ken's standards, these two guys are definitely good enough to be crooked. Suddenly, Ken Yamaguchi's unique vision for Sawamura was questioned. What criteria did this charismatic classmate choose? Sawamura didn't have the time to pay attention to Yamaguchi's doubts, and Yamaguchi Ken, who had just recruited 3 people. Even if he and his childhood sweetheart Wakana were included, it was only 5 people. 4 more. The revolution has not yet succeeded, comrades still need to work hard. Silently cheering himself up in his heart, Sawamura started a new recruit with an ordinary face behind him, a tall and thin man with malnutrition, and a super fat man who was 1.5 meters tall and weighed 150. Journey of. These 4 people are particularly eye-catching in the recruiting team. Some people who saw them immediately hid far away like the plague. Hey, people's hearts are scattered, it's hard to lead a team. Sawamura himself carried a baseball club sign, attracting people all over the campus. In the end, after his unremitting efforts, he finally fooled a young man who looked like a quiet girl. Feng Liang, believe me, you must be a natural shortstop. Sawamura's words were so firm that he was almost convinced by himself. Yamaguchi-ken followed behind Sawamura with a strange expression. For some reason, he always felt that the line of Sawamura was very familiar. Don't we have seniors? No matter how modest Sawamura is, he has already recruited a lot of people. Yamaguchi-ken listened to him, including his friends from elementary school. There are 6 freshmen alone. So many people, ordinarily enough. You must know that Akagi is only a small school after all. UU reading www.UU. There are only 300 or 400 students in the 3rd grade of Com+1. The freshmen are in their early 100s, and this class is a typical yin and yang decline. It is said that all boys can hug each other and have plenty. In this way, Sawamura's recruiting rate is still quite scary. Even if they are crooked melons and cracked dates, he has called a lot. Even if the senior has given the task indicators, it should be completed. Senior. Sawamura looked bewildered, and then suddenly realized, we don't have seniors. So everyone is the absolute main force of our baseball club, and everyone has the opportunity to play. From there, Yamaguchi-ken Sawamura trumpeted the bright future of their baseball club, and he always felt something was wrong in his heart. This school originally didn't have a baseball club. Feng Liang Zhengtai, who just joined, said Sven. Then us. Yamaguchi-ken and Kurosaki and Nakagawa behind him all looked like they were being deceived. Without a baseball club, could it be said that they joined a club? At ease. The baseball club was just established. I specifically asked the principal to apply. Sawamura stretched out his thumb and pointed to his chest. Today is the first day of our Akagi Middle School Baseball Club. On the first day of freshman enrollment, a wild ball club named Akagi Junior High School Baseball Club was established. Although now it seems that they don't even have a venue, and the number of people is not together. But who could have predicted that Akagi would be so brilliant in the future? Even Sawamura, he just wanted to make up for the regrets of his friends when they were young and lead them to the national competition. I'm Sawamura, and I've come to fulfill my promise. Looking at the familiar faces on the opposite side, Sawamura said in his heart. I announce that the Akagi Middle School baseball team will be officially established from now on. The little friends of the Akagi Middle School baseball team were sitting together, and Sawamura happily announced. In order to welcome everyone, Sawamura is the host, and please have a good meal. How much pocket money do you have? When the payment was made, childhood sweetheart Wakana asked worriedly. Today's expenses are a lot for students. Don't worry, it's drizzling. I will apply for the event fund with the principal. The establishment of the baseball club of Akagi Middle School, Sawamura thought it was a great event, and it was necessary to inform the principal of his family so that the old man would bleed a little. Haha, no problem. Principal Takada, in his 50s, has a kind face and speaks slowly, just like the grandfather next door. Hearing Sawamura's request, he readily agreed, very happy. With a flick of the pen, he approved a note of 10,000 yuan and gave it to Sawamura. After giving the money, he remembered and asked, have you found your instructor? The school has regulations that any club must have its own leading teacher, and the baseball club that has just been established is naturally the same. Sawamura happily took the money and left. He had no idea about money, whether it was past or present. So he didn't know that 10,000 yuan was a lot, but it was nothing but a drop in the bucket for a baseball club that didn't have anything. Not to mention luxury items such as jerseys, even bats and gloves are not enough. Although the process was not smooth, the baseball club of Akagi Middle School was tenaciously established. It is like a wild weed, waiting for new life. After getting the funding for the event, Sawamura's next step was to find the team leader. He has already had this candidate. Mr. Sano, you are so handsome and suave. If you can't lead a baseball team to kill the quartet, how can you show your infinite style? In the teacher's office of Akagi Middle School, Sawamura is trying to persuade his head teacher. Sano, who was entangled by him, was 1.65 meters tall and weighed 120 kilograms. He had a little hair loss from his head and looked older than his real age. For him, a single teacher who didn't even have a partner, it was a bit of a waste of time to be the lead teacher for the newly established baseball club. He still has to find the other half of his life. Just looking at the student in front of him who was complimenting him incessantly, he couldn't say anything if he refused. Don't say anything else, the young man still has vision. Without waiting for Sano to speak, Sawamura grabbed his hand and said excitedly, I knew that Mr. Sano is the best. Let's just say that, this is the object of practice I'm looking for, I hope the teacher will hurry up. Get in touch. Our little friends are gearing up for the game. Sano held the paper that Sawamura had stuffed in his hand, opened his mouth a few times, and finally smiled helplessly. He wanted to say that he really didn't have time. But forget it, such a discerning student, just help him with a hand. Then he put his eyes on the note in his hand, Tenryu Middle School, Nagano Metropolitan Middle School, Nita Academy. What are these three schools? With the mentality of giving it a try, Sano called all three schools. After finishing the call, Sano calmly put down the phone, and then his whole face suddenly contorted. What are they all, and they say we don't deserve it, what are they all? Tenryu Middle School, a famous overlord in Nagano Prefecture. Nagano Metropolitan High School, runner-up in last year's national competition. Nita Junior High School, a regular visitor to the top 4 in Nagano Prefecture. In Nagano Prefecture, which has just over 40 middle schools, they are all top-notch schools. Of course, Sawamura didn't say anything. Sano, who didn't know anything about baseball, wouldn't know it anyway. What's so great, I don't believe that I can't find a suitable practice object. Sano was very angry at the arrogance of several schools. So he decided to give Akagi's friends, find a really good practice object. Mr. Hoda, are you a baseball fan? Wada, a teacher in the same office as Sano, likes baseball very much. There are many players who are active in Koshin and the profession. Well, Sano-sensei is also interested in baseball. Of course Sano responded with a smile, he really didn't know what to say. He doesn't know anything about baseball, but he has just become the head coach of the baseball club. I want to ask Mr. Hotan, is there any famous baseball team around here? When Wada talked about baseball, his whole person suddenly exuded a different brilliance. Yes, we are next door, aren't we? Next door? Sano doesn't know why, but there is a middle school next to them. Are they good at baseball? You don't know yet, but Shilun Middle School was the team that made it to the third round. Hoda has a proud expression. What is the third round? Sano said that he didn't understand baseball. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com understood what baseball fans were saying, and it was really hard. Let's put it this way, if all the middle schools in Nagano are divided into 4 equal parts, then Lun Middle School is the highest. They eliminated 75% of the schools last year. It's not impossible to enter the quarterfinals. Wada vowed to speak, but Sano did not understand. But it feels like going to school. Shalom Middle School seems to be much better than the schools I called just now. Well, let's choose it. Shalom Middle School. The news that Sano brought back made Sawamura speechless. He really didn't know much about this old neighbor Sawamura. The only news I got was probably their practice results. This was when Sawamura was running in the morning, and heard what a student at Shalom Middle School said. It's like 11 wins out of 16 games. Judging from this point, the strength of Shalom Middle School should still have some points. Although he didn't play against the ideal team, his opponent was Shalom, which was reasonable. Thank you, teacher, you really are handsome and suave, teacher. Being a baseball team leader is like a pediatrician. Sano listened to Sawamura's compliments, and felt that the young man had good eyesight and was very good at speaking. Listening next to him, Wada's eyes widened, looking at Sano's fat body and hairline with alopecia areata. Trying to find out a bit of the handsomeness in Sawamura's mouth from him. Well, forgive his clumsiness, he really didn't find these qualities in Sano-sensei. Wada admits that this has nothing to do with his small emotions. As a well-known baseball enthusiast in Akagi, the baseball club chose to lead the team. Why didn't you find yourself? After saying goodbye to Sano, Sawamura immediately brought the good news to Akagi's friends. Practice game. Just 3 days after its establishment, the little friends who didn't really understand what baseball was all about looked at Sawamura stupidly. Captain, aren't you kidding me, old man? Joke. Sawamura was incredulous. How can I be joking? You don't want to inquire. I, Sawamura, was a well-known honest person in Nagano. Honest man? King Uruana stared at Sawamura without speaking. But that expression was very intriguing. Okay, it doesn't matter. After all, Sawamura's face was not cultivated, and he was a little embarrassed to be stared at by his childhood sweethearts. But most of us don't know anything yet. Nakagawa Shinji questioned. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. Sawamura smiled and shook his head, indicating that they don't need to mind. A sport like baseball can be done by playing. Of course, as the team's captain and ace pitcher, I still need you to do me a favor. I need a catcher who can catch my pitch. Catcher? The little friend looked at Sawamura and said nothing. They are not really ignorant to that level. Most of them still know what happened to the catcher. But does a team really only need one catcher to play? Enough. Sawamura smiled brightly. To deal with the weak Shilun Middle School, as long as someone can catch his ball is enough. You all put on the catcher's equipment. Let's try one by one. As long as someone can catch my ball, we will eat Chinese food in the evening. It is good. When she heard that Sawamura wanted to treat again, Ruana was unhappy. I want to treat again, do you still have money? The 10,000 yen given by the school has already been spent. It's okay, I'll call Mr. Sano. I think he's happy to donate money to our newly established baseball club. In the office, Sano sneezed inexplicably. Yawn. Did someone miss me? Sano, who had just met the girl, had an inexplicable flush on his chubby cheeks. He felt that maybe his spring was coming. On the other hand, after the friends tried one by one, Yamaguchi was the only one who could catch Sawamura's pitch, so of course he took over the burden of the team's second main catcher. The team here has just decided on a shooting partner, and the news of Shilun Middle School over there has also come. Their time seems to be very empty. The practice game is directly arranged on the afternoon of this Saturday. At that time, they can come to Akagi, or Akagi's friends can go to Shilun Middle School. Let's go, let's go. The captain of the baseball team at Akagi Middle School, Comrade Sawamura, said righteously, the application we submitted for the competition, of course, was our past. How could Shilun's classmates come in such a hurry? It doesn't seem that far, our two schools. Wakana didn't know if it was intentional or intentional, so she exposed it. Sawamura's eyes widened, and he became unhappy. what is the journey, the important thing is sincerity. Are you worried that the team doesn't have a dedicated baseball field? Kang Yu couldn't get used to Sawamura's appearance, so she directly exposed him. Of course, Akagi Middle School, which has just established its baseball club, cannot have a dedicated baseball field. With the stinginess of Principal Takada, Sawamura even suspected that even if they reached the 3rd grade, they would not be able to get into the dedicated baseball stadium. In fact, in the last life, until Akagi was merged, Sawamura never used a dedicated baseball field in Akagi. The only temporary stadium was built by the friends themselves. It's still a good friend if you see it through or not, haven't you heard of it? Sawamura's old face couldn't hold back anymore, he stared at Kang Yu angrily and said. Oh, you're staring at me like this, it's giving me a headache. On Saturday, maybe I won't be able to participate in the game. Auntie, what's the matter with you? Someone offended you just now. Let me clean him up. Sawamura immediately made a 180-degree turn, showing his arms and sleeves, posing as if he wanted to fight with others. Fuck you, who is your aunt? Kang Yu was embarrassed by what Sawamura said, with a strange flush on her little face. What chance do you think we have? Before going to the Shilun competition, Kang Yu asked Zekin worriedly. In the first game of the Akagi Middle School baseball team, Kang Wakana still hoped that everyone would win. As long as the game is won, the baseball team will proceed very smoothly. If you can form a fighting force, represent the school to participate in the competition, win a good ranking, and win the honor for the school. No matter how stingy Principal Takada was, he would still show something. As long as the school clubs have good grades, everything is possible, and even some powerful clubs can be sponsored. If it is an old club like the baseball club, the probability of getting support must be higher. Kang Yu was dreaming her own beautiful dream, and Sawamura's eyes almost straightened. Just now, what did Wakana say? How likely are you to win? Is this a big joke? The major competitions in this country are all knockout rounds. This also means that the teams in the first round have a completely different level of strength than the teams in the second round. Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com. Shilun can reach the 3rd round all year round, so their strength can be imagined. Akagi is a group of rookies, it's good not to be tortured by blood. Still thinking about the odds? Girl, daydreaming doesn't do that either. Probably a few %. Sawamura looked at Kang Yu's face, but in the end he didn't dare to speak out, he just said vaguely. How many %? Kang Yu was relieved when she heard it. She and Sawamura were childhood sweethearts and had a very clear understanding of Sawamura's character. Although he often speaks loudly, his basic judgments are still very accurate. Sawamura said that there is a good chance of winning, so it must be a good chance of winning. The next day, when Sawamura saw his little friends, they raised their chests and looked full of confidence. They seemed to be mentally prepared to win. Does Kazawa village really don't know the confidence they come from? This is probably the so-called newborn calf is not afraid of tigers, right? Re-explained the basic rules of baseball with my friends, and then Sawamura began to lead everyone in training. Before the competition with Shilun, he always thought that he could teach everyone more, so he taught more. Grinding the gun before the battle, it is not too fast. Time passed quickly, and in a blink of an eye, it was time to agree to a match with Shilun. Akagi is an area, there are 3 middle schools in this area, living next to each other. They are Akagi, Akagi West, and Shilun. Among them, Shikung and Shikung West are both urban middle schools, while Shilun was built by private donations. Compared with the 2 public schools, the conditions are better. The distance between the 2 schools was only 200 meters. Akagi's friends arrived at Shilun's baseball field within 2 minutes. Here they will play the first practice game since the Akagi baseball team was established. Shilun's coach seemed to take this practice game very seriously. He personally sat in command, and many students came around to act as spectators. Hello, hello, thank you for accepting our request for practice matches. Shi Lun's coach, who is about 50 years old, looks very respectable. After the young man Sano met others, his aura was inevitably a little shorter. Shi Lun's coach was also very polite. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. After all, we have a lot of members. The newly established Second Army has never played in a practice match. We also need opponents very much. What, Second Army? Akaji's little friend, I didn't know this news in advance. Although they themselves are not that much better than Shi Lun's Second Army, and even their roulette skills are not as good as others, this does not prevent them from looking down on each other. Anyway, they are also Akaji's First Army, how can they compete with Shi Lun's Second Army? Sawamura didn't expect this situation either. However, he really appreciates the aura of his little friend who is not afraid of tigers as a newborn calf. No matter how strong you are, I just despise you. Although it is somewhat unreasonable to be mad, an athlete should have this kind of energy to be fearless. Otherwise, if you see a strong opponent, you will be cowardly before you can play the game. It is impossible for such a player to achieve results no matter what. The Second Army is just the Second Army. Most of them are in the same class as us. Such opponents with similar strength are also worth comparing. Appreciation is for appreciation, but the competition is still a comparison. Sawamura doesn't really care about the strength of his opponents. The main purpose of organizing practice games is to show his friends the charm and atmosphere of baseball games, so that they can become fascinated with baseball through the form of games. It's natural to have stronger opponents, and my friends can use them as an example in the future. It doesn't matter if you are weak, it's easier to develop interest in a close game. After he figured it out, Sawamura took the initiative to persuade Akaji's friends. After the captain spoke, Akaji's friends settled down and began to accept the game. At the beginning of the game, Akaji Middle School took the lead, with the catcher Ken Yamaguchi taking the lead. Hey, are you kidding me? At that time, when the players of Lun Middle School saw Ken Yamaguchi walking onto the strike zone with his bat upside down, the first thing he felt was disbelief. It's hard for them to accept that their practice counterparts would do such a thing. Yagakai, you idiot! The bat is down! Sawamura said with a blushing face. It's really embarrassing, the situation is something Sawamura never imagined before. After watching Shi Lun's fieldman's defense practice, Akaji's friends were immediately stunned. The kind of passing, that kind of reaction, that kind of ball speed deeply shocked Akaji's friends. In their impression, Shi Lun doesn't seem to be a very strong team. How did they become so powerful as soon as they played? Facing Shi Lun's professional movements, he cooperated skillfully. The arrogance of Shishin's little friends before was struck without a trace, and they were even a little overwhelmed before they entered the strike zone. Not only Yamaguchi Ken, but several other little guys are not so good. Their faces changed, and their bodies trembled slightly. How can this be fought? For a moment, Sawamura really wanted to give up. Perhaps the practice game is really early for Akaji's friends now. No, you can't just forget about it. As soon as that thought appeared, Sawamura pushed it out of his mind. He can't just let it go. If the first practice game is like this, the enthusiasm of the little friends is likely to be hit hard. You have to give them confidence. Let's make a substitution, I'll play the first shot. Sawamura replaced Yamaguchi, and he was the team's first player. Of course, this is absolutely not allowed in regular competitions, but for practice competitions, everyone is a good neighbor. Shi Lun's coach and players didn't say anything. For them, this is also the first practice game. After all, Shi Lun's second team has not been established for a long time. Please advise. The head referee was Shi Lun's coach. When Sawamura saluted him, Shi Lun's head coach was subconsciously taken aback. What kind of team Akaji is, he can see through it at a glance. It is more appropriate to say that it is an interest group rather than a team. Akagi's friends are obviously not mentally prepared for the game. The teammates made such a big ugliness before, but when Kazumura stood on the strike zone, he was still calm. You can even say hello to him calmly. It's incredible. The head coach Shilun, who had no expectations for this practice match, nodded his head at Sawamura. He decided to take a look and talk. Bring it on. Standing on the strike zone, Sawamura followed Ichiro's example and gave a beautiful home run notice. I'll go, this guy is crazy. Is that a home run notice? And it's Ichiro's standard move. Even if you want to be handsome, isn't that a trick? Shilun's buddies were shocked. A more accurate statement should be that they were angry. Isn't Akagi Middle School too arrogant? The pitcher is Shilun Miki, a freshman who just entered school this year. He was originally a junior pitcher. Later, after entering middle school, I stopped going to practice in Shiokaiu. Now he serves as the main pitcher of Shilun's Second Army. Although he is only a pitcher of the Second Army, and he is still a freshman. But Shilun's coach is very important to him. The coach even regarded him as Shilun's savior. If he is not a first grader, if his body can be stronger, maybe Shilun's coach will directly promote him to ace. This practice match was specially prepared for him by Shilun's coach. Facing the coach's high regard, Miki was flattered and determined to perform well and respond to the coach's expectations. But Akagi, an opponent, really wasn't enough to lift his spirits. The only decent ones are probably their pitchers. Ajun Sawamura. Miki was sure that he had never heard of this name in Xiaobang, nor had he seen this person. However, his striking posture is very standard. In addition to learning Ichiro's home run notice before, Sawamura's entire hitting posture belongs to the most standard hitting posture. Can't be taken lightly. Before pitching, Miki secretly warned himself. Whoosh! Miki threw the ball, which shocked Akagi's friends. This Shilun's pitcher is good, very slow. Of course, it's not that Miki's ball speed is really slow. In the first year of middle school, he can throw a ball speed of about 111, which is very good. But when Sawamura practiced with Akagi, the speed of the ball was much faster. What? Facing the 111 SPED straight ball, Sawamura shouted and swung for the first time in his middle school career. The bat in Sawamura's hand brushed past the flying baseball. No one touched each other. The baseball fell directly into the glove of the catcher of Shilun Middle School. Nice shot. Hey, I'm sorry, because I haven't swung for too long, and my body is rusted. Sawamura's face was not blushing or panting, and he was talking loudly. From the expression on his face, he could not see the slightest embarrassment. At this time, Shilun's pitcher Miki was also annoyed. It's a pity that he regarded Sawamura as a very strong opponent before, but he didn't expect that the other party was just an embroidered pillow on the surface. With this fight, Miki's pitching became more relaxed. Nice shot! Nice shot! Strike, strike out! With 3 strikes in a row, Sawamura was struck out. There is an old saying in China that failure is success. We found his mother first. The blow was struck out, and when Sawamura returned to the Akagi rest area, he said boldly. I didn't want him to speak, and immediately greeted the ridicule of Kikai's friends in Shikung. Since it's a trump card, you can act like a trump card. It's so embarrassing. Captain has this virtue, what hope do we have? Because the little friends were concentrating on complaining about Zekken, it was very miraculous that their originally tense emotions relaxed unconsciously. The game continues. Strike, 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 strike out. Akagi's little friend, after all, the time he has been in contact with baseball is very short. Facing a pitching speed of 110 km, it was very difficult to deal with. After Sawamura, 2 more friends were struck out. 3 outs, the two sides exchanged offense and defense. At this time, the children of Shilun's second army are about to fly with high morale. Akagi, it really is a fish-belly team, is fine. However, for the first time, it would be nice to meet such an opponent. At least they can pass this game and play with confidence. Akagi with fish belly is just as valuable to them. Come on! Boldly hit and beat the pitcher. Due to the good performance of pitcher Mickey, the little friends of Shilun Middle School also looked very imposing when they cheered. They wanted a big victory to commemorate the first battle after the establishment of the Second Army of Shilun. The atmosphere is a bit strange. Coach Shilun, who was a guest referee at home plate, always felt that something was wrong there. But if you really want him to say that there is a problem there, he can't say it. How weird! In the second half of the game, Shilun Middle School attacked. At this time, Sawamura stood on the pitcher's mound, and his partner was naturally Yamaguchi. On the pitching mound, Sawamura was not affected by his previous strikeout. Instead, he was radiant. Finally, on the pitching mound again. And it's still playing. Taking a deep breath, Sawamura suddenly shouted to the guards behind him, "I'll keep letting them out, and the guards behind me are all up to you." Hearing Sawamura's words, Akagi's little friends changed expressions one by one. The founder of the team, the captain, asked them so solemnly, and trusted them so much. Inexplicably, the little friends felt that their blood was boiling all over. As a man, how could they live up to their brother's expectations? "Leave it to us. Let them fight, we will stop it." Although the calf was still spinning, and even though he was still afraid of the baseball approaching, Akagi's friends still firmly shouted words of support for Sawamura. In the position of the home plate referee, Shilun's coach finally understood that something was wrong. Akagi, who was nervous to death just now and was about to collapse, has now miraculously relaxed, and each one is still scary with high fighting spirit. He glanced thoughtfully at the boy on the pitcher mound, and was extremely surprised. This pitcher named Sawamura did it on purpose and made a fool of himself. The purpose was to let everyone relax and relieve the pressure. Under the spotlight, Sawamura made his first shot. Whoosh! The baseball flew out of Sawamura's hand like a beam of laser light. So fast! Shilun's hitter looked at the baseball in front of him in disbelief, as if he'd seen a ghost in broad daylight, with a hopeless expression on his face. They also knew a little about their opponents before. Akagi is a grass team that has just been established. Like most of Shilun's second army, their players are freshmen who have just entered the school. This Sawamura, also a first-year student at Akagi Middle School, was just 12 years old. But, how can his ball be so fast? Snapped! The baseball smashed into the glove, making a thrilling sound. This voice was heavy in the hearts of the friends of Shilun Middle School. Not only is the speed of the ball fast, but the power of the ball is also frightening. With their eyes, it is still impossible to accurately judge Sawamura's actual ball speed. But Coach Shilun, who is the referee, is different. He can judge the speed of Sawamura's ball. Sawamura's pitching has a speed of at least 120 kilometers. For freshmen who have just entered middle school, this is not bad, it is amazing. 12 to 14 is the fastest stage of physical development for boys. There is a big difference in physical fitness between first-year middle school players and third-year players, and the same is true for strength. Although the ball speed of 120 is not very fast in middle school, it is definitely above the average level. Most of this is still in the third grade, and the first grade has such a level of pitching. The coach of UU reading www.uuganshu.com Shilun hadn't even heard of it before. You know, Sawamura and the others were just graduating elementary school students 2 months ago. Shilun's coach suddenly had a peculiar insight: the future of this young man is absolutely limitless. Strike, 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 strikeout. Strike, 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 strikeout. Strikeout. Shi Lun's so-called Second Army was just formed because there were too many new students joining and one team could not be recruited. Compared with Shishin's little friends, their own level is a bit stronger, but it is also limited. Although Sawamura has been concentrating on honing his ball speed and power since his rebirth. For this reason, he even temporarily sealed his pitching posture and the original natural change of the ball. Without the experience of rebirth, Sawamura may not yet understand the true use of straight and ball speed. But with such an experience, it is different. No matter what, he will not take the detours before. What is ball speed? I really want to find a word to describe it. All Sawamura can think of is chakra, inner strength, domineering, mind power. In short, without it, it is very difficult for you to become a top player. Of course it is difficult and not absolute, at least there are alternative pitchers such as butterfly balls. But once you have it, it will be different. It is like a super master of internal skills, even touching flowers and flying leaves can hurt people. Even an ordinary changing ball, with absolute ball speed, can display amazing power. In his previous life, Sawamura had reached the top of the ball of change, and he was very complacent, thinking that he was only one step away from a legendary superstar. But when he arrived in the major leagues, he discovered that for those monsters who swing their bats with all their strength, the sharp changes in pitching are not so useful. If his ball speed could have been 10 kilometers faster then, no, it would have been 5 kilometers. The results are all quite different. After being reborn, Sawamura began to concentrate on honing his speed. This kind of exercise is to be cultivated with the growth of the body during the 6 years from middle school to high school, and the effect is the most obvious. Once the body has passed the age of 16, it is basically set, and it is difficult to achieve a great improvement in the speed of the ball. When he graduated from high school in his previous life, Sawamura had just honed his ball speed to 140, which was not too weak for a professional pitcher. But there isn't much of an advantage. In this life, Sawamura is not very demanding. As long as you can lift 10 kilometers. If there is a ball speed of 150, plus the colorful changing ball, he will definitely become a legend. Although Sawamura in his previous life had some achievements, he was still far from being a legend. Even in his contemporaries, Sawamura did not become the greatest one. After that, let's talk about the game. First grade of middle school, 12 years old, 120 ball speed. Although Sawamura himself is not too satisfied, the speed of the ball is actually quite amazing. At the very least, the little friends of Kalachaya's Second Army can't accept it. They usually practice hitting the ball at a speed of 100 kilometers, and the fastest will not exceed 111. The ball speed of 122 is completely untouched for them. Strike, 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 strike out. That pitcher's ball speed, say it quickly. Who said no? How are we going to fight? Shilun's players were at a loss for a while. Sawamura encouraged his friends on the side, 1 point is good. I will suppress them. As long as the big guy wins 1 point, we have hope. Don't care about the blind cat killing the mouse. Just see when the ball comes, swing the bat, there will always be a chance. At this time, Sawamura was a little annoyed. If only he was in the fourth bat. In this way, as long as the first 3 hits can be hit, he can use timely hits to help the team score. But now, there are 7, 8, 9 sticks ahead of him. Not to mention this pitcher of the time round, even if an 8-year-old child pitched, they would probably have a hard time hitting it. The miracle did not happen in the end, and the first practice game of the little friends from Akagi Middle School was destined to leave regrets. At the end of the 7 innings, the total score is still 0:0. Because it was not an official game, Shilun's coach did not arrange any tactics for his players. Otherwise, even if Sawamura has a ball speed of 120, it will be difficult to guarantee a draw. Although I have regrets, it may not be a good thing for Akagi's friends. This game made them fully aware of their own problems, and at the same time they liked baseball more. There is nothing faster to cultivate interest than to participate in the competition yourself. After the game, Akaji's friends really felt the charm of baseball. Sawamura is also very pleased with the result. He didn't know at the time, what would this game bring to him and Akaji. Shillun is different from Akaji. As a famous baseball school in Nagano Prefecture, they communicate with other schools in Nagano. With the increase of Shiran's Second Army practice games, a name gradually appeared in the baseball circles of all middle schools in Nagano Prefecture. That is Sawamura, Sawamura A-jun. It seems that overnight, Nagano has such a powerful player. Ball speed 120 plus. Not to mention anything else, this is enough to attract attention. Even Sawamura, who had a rebirth experience, never expected that he would somehow become a famous baseball pitcher in Nagano Prefecture. As Sawamura became famous, there was never a shortage of invitations from Akaji to practice competitions. Sawamura thought again and again, but did not ask Sano to help arrange it immediately. This kind of frustration-style interest cultivation can only be done once. If you do this for a long time, it may backfire. In the next practice game, at least you have to score points. Otherwise, wouldn't the game of the Akaji Middle School baseball team be watching you perform alone? A team is a team, not a personal property. For the sake of oneself, it is absolutely impossible to ignore the collective interests of the team. Especially as the captain, team organizer, and manager, Sawamura believes that it is even more necessary for him to lead by example. So, he told everyone about the invitation. During this time, many people have invited us to play. It seems that everyone is still very interested in me as a fastball pitcher. Sawamura didn't hide the smug look on his face. Facing such a frank Sawamura, the friends were a little upset. However, I still expressed my understanding, and I didn't have any small emotions. After all, no matter what, Sawamura's strength is there. But they were all rejected by me. Sawamura said, the team does not belong to me alone, but to all of us. I don't want to hear people outside say that Akaji is my Sawamura's 1M team. Sawamura said a lot, but this sentence really speaks to my friend's heart. There were two emotional ones who even cried on the spot. Hey, King, you hasn't cried yet, man, don't be too embarrassed. Sawamura joked. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. Since then, Akaji's friends, following Sawamura's instructions, practiced baseball even harder. They are waiting patiently, waiting to be on the field again. By then, they must have surprised everyone. Time passed quietly in the constant practice of Akaji's friends. In the blink of an eye, it has been a month since they played against Shillun Middle School. During this time, everyone worked very hard. Not only did they become familiar with the rules of baseball, but their swing and fielding also looked the same. Sawamura believes that the time is ripe to consider the next practice match. Sano-sensei agrees with Sawamura's idea. Association activities require communication in the first place. How can it be possible without communication? He was fed up with the phone calls inviting him to the competition every day, and now that Sawamura has finally let go, he naturally won't let go of the opportunity. Then show me all the schools that invited us during this time. Sano had no reason not to listen to Sawamura's request. He happily gave Sawamura the name he remembered. Of course, there are some deletions in this. Some teams that disdain to play against Akaji have come back to find them. They were all rejected by Sano Yoshihisa eloquently. Just him. After careful screening for a long time, Sawamura finally designated a school. Tell them that we will go on an expedition, and let them prepare the venue. Sawamura's natural appearance made Sano have a strange illusion, as if Akaji was an amazing team. In fact, Akaji was just a practice match, and the target was the Second Army of Shillun Middle School. If there is no Sawamura, who knows what the Akaji is? The various schools in the middle school are very wary of each other because of the direct competition. At this time, a team like Akagi suddenly appeared, and a pitcher like Sawamura naturally wanted to exchange ideas. During that time, Sawamura made Sano refuse all invitations to practice competitions. In the case of not being able to ask for it, the effect of hunger marketing actually appeared, which was unexpected. For Akagi, this is like pie from the sky. Akagi now has no shortage of objects for practice competitions. This is too valuable for a nascent team. Before the team led by Shisawa village, until the 3rd grade, everyone often made some low-level mistakes. Why? It's not because they play less games and have no experience. In this life, it seems that Sawamura doesn't need to worry about training his opponents anymore. Sawamura's opponent was Nagata Junior High, a famous first-round tour team with limited strengths than Akagi. The first-round tour team, as the name suggests, is the super weak team that was eliminated in the first round of the long-term competition. In major national level events, what kind of teams have the most teams? Everyone has their own criteria for judging this question. But there is one that is recognized by everyone and also exists objectively, and that is the first-round tour team. Such teams account for nearly half of the total participating teams. In terms of pure numbers, they are definitely the most. Nagata is such a team. They have never broken through the first round of the competition in the past 10 years. No matter how much such a team loves baseball, their highest aspirations for baseball are unlikely to reach the level of Sawamura. After being reborn, Sawamura is not only content to lead his friends to enter the national competition, but also wants to lead them to dominate the country. Nagata Middle School's biggest ideal right now is to break through the first round of the competition and break the curse of on-around tour. Even their passionate captain is just calling on everyone to create the best record in Nagata's history. There was one time in Nagata before, about 14 or 5 years ago, when they made it to the top 16 of Nagano Prefecture. This ranking is indeed not bad in Tokyo. It can be placed in Nagano. There are more than 40 middle schools in total. The top 16 survived but won the second round, some lucky draws, and even one win is Nagano's top 16. Although the strength is not strong, this can't stop the Nagata friends from loving baseball. They have a lot of members, and their training is very solid. In the on-around tour team, they are relatively good candidates for practice competitions. So far, the practice record is 15 games, 3 wins. This is also the reason why Sawamura chose them. Their strength is not strong, and the team is still decent. As soon as he entered Nagata, Sawamura felt the star treatment. Nagata's players surrounded him one by one, like the stars holding the moon. Can you really cast 120 kilometers? You look like you're just over 1.6 meters, right? What's your height? Xiaobang is there. I don't think I've heard of it before. It should be famous in Xiaobang. Is it a transfer student? Please give me some advice. This posture doesn't look like a senior to a junior, a host to a guest, it's a bit like a fan meeting an idol. I'm 1.66 meters. I've never been at Xiaobang, I've practiced by myself. Sawamura answered Nagata's question with a smile, and couldn't help complaining in his heart, how do you want me to play in the next game like this? Even so, Sawamura somewhat understands why players like Nagata are like this. Because they love baseball, they must have done a lot of research. In order to break the curse of the tale of 10,000 years crane, Sawamura believes that they must have made a lot of efforts. But even so, they are still not confident. Baseball has been around for too long in this country. Each round of the competition represents a completely different strength. Even if they work hard and go all out, they are still confused about the future. Can Nagata Middle School really win? Can they really win a game in an official competition? Akagi is different. Although Akagi has just been established, his qualifications have no advantage over Nagata. But as long as there is a leader like Sawamura, this ace pitcher, Nagata's players believed that Akagi would never sink for too long in the first round. Whether it is the real world or the two-dimensional world, there are many examples of a good pitcher leading a team to prosper. But such a pitcher is too rare. As long as they encounter such a pitcher, they even dare to ask for the whole country, and even Jiazuyuan. The reason why Nagata has no confidence is because there is no ace like Sawamura in their team. Envy, adoration, desire. Complex emotions, intertwined, can cause such a strange phenomenon. Nagata's players surrounded Sawamura like star-chasing fans. In fact, they were surrounded by Sawamura, and they were surrounded by the dream in their hearts. Please take care of me. Please take care of me. Like a star, Sawamura accepted a 10-minute interview, and then the match officially started. In the first half of the game, Nagata took the lead. Whoosh! The throwing ball, like a laser beam, came out of Sawamura's hand and got into Yamaguchi's open glove. Snapped! The sound from the gloves was extremely heavy, and the hearts of Nagata's players, who were heavy, sank. The speed of the ball is so fast and the power of the ball is so heavy. Even if they had heard from the players of Shilun's Second Army before, they couldn't help but be startled when they saw it with their own eyes. The ball is so fast. It looks like more than 120 kilometers, right? I've seen a 120-kilometer ball in the hitting field, and it doesn't seem to be as fast as him. Is he really only 12 years old? Nagata's contestants were talking a lot, looking at Sawamura with envy and admiration in their eyes. It's amazing, it's really amazing. But such a good pitcher, why did he go to Akagi instead of Nagata? If we had such a pitcher, then... The picture in the imagination is so beautiful that Nagata's little friends dare not expect too much. Strike! 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 Strike out! Strike out! Strike out! Soaring to a ball speed of over 120, Nagata's little friend was completely powerless. Their swing speed simply can't keep up with Sawamura's pitch, and it's not within their ability to predict the timing of the swing. As a result, they can only rely on blindness to play Sawamura's ball. In this way, Sawamura easily got 3 strikeouts, making Nagata's buddies 3 strikes and 3 strikes. Speaking of which, Nagata's strength is similar to that of Shilun's Second Army. At that time, Shilun's Second Army couldn't hit Sawamura's ball, so naturally the player who changed to Nagata was the same. Good cast. Nice job. The little friends, one by one, surrounded Sawamura. They were so excited that no ball flew over, so naturally they didn't have to face baseball. It's great to be able to deal with opponents so easily and happily. Sawamura scored 3 consecutive strikeouts, and the two sides exchanged offense and defense. In the second half of the game, it was Akagi Middle School to attack. Akagi's first match in this match was Sawamura's ace partner Ken Yamaguchi. Don't be nervous, Yamaguchi. Sawamura patted Yamaguchi's shoulder lightly, signaling him to relax. Look at you, Yamaguchi. It's time to show your manly charm. Little friends, cheer for Yamaguchi. Because of Sawamura's pitching, the enthusiasm of the little friends is very high. Anyway, Sawamura's pitching can keep Nagata's batters out, they just need to do their best to score 1 point, as long as there is 1 point, they will win. Such confidence support is too powerful. Everyone gathers firewood and the flame is high. Once the little friends work together to win a point, the combat power they form is very terrifying. Strike depends on talent. Although Akagi's team also has 2 buddies who have been in contact with baseball before, when it comes to striking power, Yamaguchi surpasses both of them. He is the second only batter in the entire team after Sawamura. For him, Akagi's friends naturally placed high hopes on him. As long as he can get to base, he will continue to play smoothly in the hands of the 4th player, Sawamura. It is very likely that Akagi will score points in the first game. I want to fight too. Yamaguchi smiled wryly. Of course he was eager to hit the ball, but as long as he thought of the ball that Sawamura threw when he helped them practice on weekdays, and the pitch of the first-year pitcher Miki from Shilun Middle School, a feeling of powerlessness, it was shrouded in Yamaguchi's heart. The pitcher's ball is so fast, how can he hit it? After all, these little friends in Akagi Middle School didn't start playing baseball since they were children, and their strength is still very limited. Even Yamaguchi, who was second only to Sawamura in attack power, had only been practicing swinging for less than half a month. Snapped. Just when Yamaguchi hesitated, Nagata's pitcher pitched. His ball was thrown firmly into the open glove of the Nagata catcher. From Yamaguchi's point of view, Nagata's pitching was incredible. The ball is so slow as a tortoise crawling. Not to mention Miki, the pitcher of Sawamura and Shilun's second army, even if he pitched by Yamaguchi, he pitched much faster than Nagata. There is no need to talk about the specific speed of the ball in kilometers, and Yamaguchi can't tell. Yamaguchi just had a feeling that he might be able to hit the ball too. Yamaguchi swung decisively after falling behind in the number of balls. Ping! Not to mention, Yamaguchi deserves to be Akagi's first strong hit after Sawamura. He really hit the ball, and his flying speed and angle are very good. I hit! I hit! Yamaguchi looked at the bat in his hand in disbelief, feeling very magical. I didn't expect that he would have this day too, it's so cool, it's so cool. Yamaguchi, who has always been introverted, couldn't help but cheer. Just before he could cheer, he faintly felt that someone was calling him. Yamaguchi, Yamaguchi. Going back to God's Yamaguchi, he followed the sound and saw that Sawamura was shouting something at him, while his arms were constantly waving. What's wrong? Brother, you are playing with me, run. Run quickly. Finally, Yamaguchi heard clearly. Sawamura told him to run fast. What? First base, of course. The ball doesn't have to be hit. After the ball hits the ground, before the fielding player returns the ball to the base bag, the batter must run to the base bag safely, so that it can be counted as an effective hit. Yamaguchi had an epiphany, twisted his sturdy body, and ran to first base. But it took a long time. After hitting out, Yamaguchi was shocked first, then he was intoxicated, Sawamura reminded him, and finally ran to first base. The whole process took a full 10 seconds, and Yamaguchi took a full 5 seconds to go from the strike zone to first base. 15 seconds. At this time, Sawamura would almost be able to run back to home base, but Yamaguchi hadn't reached first base yet. Even if he played well, Nagata's player was not a wooden player. The ball was passed to first base early, and the Yamaguchi kid was blocked out. Akagi's rest area. Sawamura held his forehead in pain. What's wrong? Kengyu asked with concern. Sawamura's sudden unrequited expression startled her. It's too embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Sawamura's face turned purple. If Kuramaki-senpai knew that his little friend couldn't run to first base for 10 seconds, he would probably have laughed. Sorry. Little Fatty was very ashamed. Sawamura had clearly told them so many times before, but once he played, he couldn't help but make mistakes. It's okay, it's okay. You finally hit the ball out, and it's a good start. Sawamura got up again and comforted his partner like Xiaoqiang, who couldn't be beaten to death. Most of Akagi's friends are beginners, they will make mistakes, and there is nothing they can do. Sawamura could still figure this out. However, in his previous life, he himself was very ignorant, and he didn't have such an intuitive feeling about everyone's mistakes. Now, when he looks back on it, he realizes that he wanted to lead such a team into the country at that time. The ignorant is fearless, and that's probably what he said. Once out, no one hits the base. Akagi's performance made Nagata's players stunned. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. A hit that is at least second base, and it just flew. Are these guys from Akagi really strong, or are they just a bunch of laymen? If he wasn't strong, how could that hitter be so good? But to be strong, how could they not even know how to run the bases? The game continued. After that, the performance of the two batters was not as impressive as Yamaguchi's. One of them was struck out directly, and the other hit an infield grounder, landed in front of the pitcher, and was caught by Nagata's pitcher. 3 outs, offense and defense exchange. In the first half of the second game, Nagata Middle School attacked. This time, it was Nagata's fourth bat. The fourth stick in any team cannot be given for nothing. Their blows must have their own set. Sawamura is still very careful about this opponent. When controlling the ball, try to avoid the center of the strike zone. Nice shot! Nice shot! Ping! After 2 consecutive strikes, Nagata's 4 hits Sawamura's pitch. The moment the bat collided with the baseball, Nagata's 4 bats felt that the bat in his hand could not help but fly away. Sawamura's pitching is terrifyingly heavy. This ball is far from an ordinary 120-kilometer ball that can have it. The baseball was hit, unable to rebound, and rolled forward slowly. Yamaguchi performed well this time. He picked up the ball and used his gloves to directly touch the 4 sticks who were stunned on the ground. Get out! Out! With Nagata's 4th out, Sawamura gave Nagata's batter 3 hits and 3 hits for the second time. The game went into the second half of the second inning. Akagi Middle School's first hitter is the 4th, Sawamura A-jun. Returning to the rest area on his side, Nagata's 4 sticks were ashamed. Sure enough, a ball speed of 120 is too much for you, Nagata's coach said with a frown. In some strong teams, such as Nagano Prefecture's quarterfinals and semifinals, 102 or even faster balls, they are not incapable of coping. Even Shilun Middle School, who played against Akagi before. The main pitcher of their first army also has a ball speed of 120 to 130. But those are the Chongsheng schools in Nagano, and there is no comparison with Nagata, a team that competes in one round. Nagata's 4th bat opened his mouth, but in the end he didn't say anything. Maybe it's not necessarily his own illusion. He always feels that Sawamura's pitching seems to be more than just ball speed. There was a quality in that pitcher's pitch that he couldn't describe. With the 4 sticks out, the others were not spared either. After a while, Akagi completed his defense mission. Although the disciple was struck out in a row, Nagata's coach was not too anxious. They had such mental preparations for a practice match with Akagi. He believed that as long as the game continued, the players would slowly catch up with Sawamura's ball speed. If it is just a straight ball, the speed of 120 is not out of reach. This is also the purpose of their organization of this practice game. Only by adapting to such a ball speed can his disciples challenge other strong schools in Nagano in the future. In the second half of the second game, Akagi Middle School attacked. Sawamura, the ace pitcher and 4th bat, was the first to stand in the hitting zone. Ah! Sawamura felt very excited after waving the bat vigorously. In his previous life, his blows were often criticized by the people around him. Now that he has a new life, in addition to fulfilling the few wishes in his mind, he also wants to make achievements in the blows. Come on, the era of Sawamura's arrogance has begun. A-jun Sawamura stood firmly on the strike zone, the bat in his hand raised high. Although it looks like he's ready to fight, Sawamura's posture is actually very relaxed. Nowhere in his body was he deliberately exerting force. The raised bat swayed slightly in his hand, as if looking for a certain opportunity, waiting for a one-hit kill. Really annoying. It was the catcher of Nagata Middle School who first noticed that Sawamura was different. He couldn't say why. He just felt that Sawamura's way of waiting for the ball made people look very annoying. Because his bat kept shaking, it actually distracted the pitcher in disguise. People tend to neglect to observe things that are still, but they are very concerned about things that are moving. Now Nagata's pitcher has this feeling. He feels that the bat in Sawamura's hand seems to be bigger than before. This bat is so big. This kind of feeling is very strange. If you use a bat to hit a flying baseball, the success rate of hitting is still very limited. It takes a lot of practice to hit the ball. But if you're holding a pan in your hand, it's naturally much easier to hit, at least it's easier to hit the ball. Now Nagata's pitcher has such an odd feeling. He feels that the bat in Sawamura's hand is much larger than that of a normal hitter. Of course he knew it was impossible, but the odd feeling lingered. After all, Sawamura has experienced professional experience, and some small habits that he doesn't particularly care about are actually very reasonable. As the so-called expert reaches out his hand, he will know if there is any. The same principle applies to baseball. As soon as a truly skilled player comes on the field, his every move will naturally carry that posture. Coming. In Sawamura's eyes, Nagata's pitching was slow. As far as the eye can see, there are about 100 or so. Speaking of which, Sawamura has not seen such a slow ball in a long time. The freshman pitcher at Shilun Middle School said that he could throw the ball to 101. Middle school students, especially the third-grade middle school students, although their physical fitness has not fully developed to the peak, they are still inseparable. A ball speed of around 120 is quite common. Even if it's garbage, 101 is the safest. This pitcher's ball speed is only 100. Could it be that he has weapons other than ball speed? Sawamura thought so subconsciously. It wasn't because he was overly concerned, it was a professional habit. In the professional arena, swinging the bat is very dangerous. You can fall into the opponent's rhythm if you're not careful, so every swing must be carefully calculated. Consume the pitches of the pitcher, wait for the right time to swing the bat, gamble on the way. These Sawamura did not specialize in training, and after playing baseball for more than 10 years, he naturally did so. Today, it is the same. Nice shot. The first ball didn't swing. Sawamura calmly chose to watch. His performance like this is nothing to the people of Akagi. Anyway, in the eyes of Akagi's friends, Sawamura's every move has always been confusing. But the people at Nagata Middle School were different, they were really frightened. Originally thought, how powerful is this pitcher with 120 acceleration? After all, he's also an ace pitcher and fourth bat. I didn't expect it to be a silver onion wax gun tip, which is not very useful. Clap. Bad ball. Bad ball. After observing the 3 goals, reading www.yuyugonshu.com, Sawamura gradually understood the opponent's strength. It turned out that it wasn't that the opponent had any secret weapon, it was simply that he thought too much. The opponent's pitcher's ball speed is only about 100. The reason why he can become an ace is very simple, just because he can throw the ball into the strike zone. From this point, you can also see the level of Nagata. Cough. With a dry cough, Sawamura was a little embarrassed. In his own capacity, he was fooled by a little kid. Speaking of this, Kuramachi is still laughing to death. Seeing through the reality of his opponent, Sawamura no longer had any worries and was ready to swing the bat. At this time, Nagata's catcher was a little hesitant. Sawamura didn't swing his bat for 3 consecutive balls. Does that mean that this guy only has good pitching and can't hit at all? If that's the case, then there's no reason for us to run away. Let's play it off with a good shot. Thinking about it, he decisively gave the pitcher a signal for a good shot. The pitchers on the mound also found confidence in the constant pitching. On the first ball, he was so frightened by Sawamura that he threw the ball straight into the center. Fortunately, Sawamura didn't swing his bat at that time. Otherwise, they would be miserable. Now it seems that I was frightened by the opponent's pitch, and subconsciously thought that the opponent's blow was also very strong. It now appears that may not be the case at all. Just use this ball to solve you. With determination, the pitcher completely waved his arms. The speed of the ball is also a lot faster, almost 101. In Sawamura's eyes, this ball looks extremely comfortable. He really couldn't stand the 100-kilometer ball from before. Like a turtle crawling, it is not easy to seize the moment. 101 is much better. The 111 to 150 pitches were all within Sawamura's previous range, because this is also the range of ball speeds that fluctuates the most in professional baseball. Ping! When he struck, his body was completely stretched out, and Sawamura didn't exert any force on any part. The body rotates with the left foot as the core, and then the whole movement is continuously coordinated. The baseball was hit and flew out in front of everyone. The ball flies so fast, so high, and so far. Nagata's contestants, all with pale faces, had an ominous premonition in their hearts. Could it be, no? That guy is just a freshman. Could it be that he can still hit a home run? Snapped. Unfortunately, the ball was not able to fly in the end. He landed about 5 meters in front of the outfield fence. Of course, at this distance, Nagata's outfield guard was not there. Sawamura trotted all the way over the first, second, and third bases and ran back to home plate. It's not that he is fast, it's just that Nagata's outfielder is too slow to find the ball. When the ball came back, half a minute passed. Even if Sawamura left, it would be enough time for him to come back. Home run. Although it was only a home run on the field, Sawamura was still very happy. After all, this is the first home run he will remember in his life. However, the physical fitness is still not good, and the foundation is not solid enough. Through this swing, Sawamura fully realized his own inadequacies. After all, he's not the kind of guy who was born big, either. During this period of time, I have been practicing pitching again, and I can't help but slack off about swinging. In addition to experience, the memory of the body is also very important. And this thing is very similar to practicing martial arts. If you don't practice for 3 days, your hands and feet will be slow. To maintain a good state, Sawamura must strengthen his swing practice. In this game, Sawamura once again finished the shot. 0 hits, 0 runs. 1. You actually won? After the game, it was not the people from Nagata Middle School who were most surprised, but Akaji's own friends. They actually won. Oh! Kengyu jumped up excitedly, she was extremely happy. Sure enough, that kid Sawamura is not just bragging. They can really win, and they win so beautifully. Let's call it beautiful, after all, no matter what, the team didn't lose any points. Facing Sawamura's 120 and approaching 125 fastballs, Nagata's hitter was completely powerless. For them who practiced at 111 ball speed, 120 or so is an unknown field at all, okay? When they practiced with Sawamura, they also used Sawamura's pitching as a free practice object so that they could get used to the speed of the ball. After all, not every middle school can be extravagant enough to practice with a pitching machine. After 7 battles, Akaji defeated Nagata Middle School 1-0. In 7 innings, Sawamura scored 19 strikeouts, and in the entire pitching process, there was not a single 4 breakout. After they left, Nagata's 2 players whispered. That guy, he didn't use his full strength when he pitched the ball just now, right? It shouldn't be. It looks like it's easy to do, and the ball selection is not very tricky. The 2 looked at each other with a chill in their hearts. Only now have they discovered a very terrifying thing, that is, in 21 duels, Sawamura seems to have never thrown a single bad ball, and he is completely relying on his own ball speed to fight. Are we too naive, or? The Akaji baseball teammates who returned to school were still too excited to hold back. Most of them had little baseball experience, and they didn't expect to win their opponents in the second game. Of course, Sawamura had a lot of his own thoughts on this, but he didn't want to interrupt the excitement of his friends at this time. Just let them be happy for a while, and I'll talk about it later. Now, just enjoy the victory. As a professional player in his previous life, Sawamura seemed to be in a hurry all the time, either in games or in training. Speaking of which, he hadn't calmed down for a long time and simply celebrated his victory. Have you heard that the baseball team seems to have won the practice game? In the classroom of the second grade of Akagi Middle School, several students gathered together and eagerly discussed the big news in the school. Although the baseball team was proposed by Sawamura, most of the players were first-year students. But that doesn't mean no one plays baseball in the senior year. According to legend, there was a baseball club in Akagi before. Among the students in front of me, 2 of them were once members of the symphony club. Later, when the seniors graduated, the popular baseball symphony club no longer had any activities. But that doesn't mean that the baseball club is disbanded. Up to now, Oda and Feng Xiang are still members of the concert club. Feng Xiang is even the president of the symphony club. These little guys are really capable of tossing around. Oda pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose and said with a smile. After he finished speaking, he gave Feng Xiang a special look. I wonder what Feng Xiang was thinking? Oda and Feng Xiang used to be buddies of young clubs, but later they were promoted to middle school, so they naturally left from young clubs. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com entered Akagi, and they did not completely put down baseball, and formed a 6% fun club with the previous seniors. Oda remembers that Feng Xiang also said that he wanted to form a baseball team. Later, the seniors graduated. There were only the 2 of them left in the symphony, and this matter was over. Now, a junior boy who is an age younger than himself has set up a baseball club. I wonder what Feng Xiang will think in his heart? Oda, speaking of which, you are the veterans and captains of the baseball team. Why did you let that kid named Sawamura come forward? Oda smiled awkwardly, not knowing how to answer. Feng Xiang closed the book in front of him and said coldly, Sawamura, he has never been in our club. The baseball club and the club are 2 clubs after all. Feng Xiang noticed Sawamura earlier than others. Just when he was about to post a new advertisement, he saw Sawamura holding up a sign swaggeringly about to recruit new members. For this reason, Feng Xiang also specifically asked the principal. Why did Sawamura set up a baseball team without joining the club? Ah, haven't you always been short of members? It's rare for Sawamura-san to be so enthusiastic, so I will approve it. If you discuss it, the merger will be fine. The principal explained with kindness and kindness. In this way, the baseball team and the fun club became 2 societies. For this matter, Sawamura really does not know. He was in his 2nd year when he summoned his companions to form a baseball team in his last life. At that time, Feng Xiang and Oda were already facing graduation, so naturally they would not follow along. But it's different now. They are still ambitious baseball enthusiasts, looking forward to forming a baseball team. In other words, the little fire in their hearts that loves baseball is still burning.